to the cloud. I don't know. It's so funny. It always gives me an option of record to cloud or record to the computer. And I always have that moment where I'm like, which one do I want? Like every single time, like, I don't know how I haven't figured it out yet. But I stare at it like, don't pick the wrong one. Because if it records to my computer, then it's just like taking up a bunch of memory in my computer. It's like, it's an hour recording. But anyway, yeah, girl, I would totally be down for that. So let's keep that in mind when I decide to come back up to Ohio, if I can ever make it up there. It's such a bummer, man. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in like so long. It's been nice that I've got to see like Brittany and Kristen down here in Florida, but like, man, normally I'm like always up and back between like Indianapolis or Upper. Like I'm usually coming back like every couple months, or just at least seeing people more often. So it's just definitely kind of putting a damper on our lifestyle here, this whole like non-traveling stuff. But it's like, it's also one of those things, it's like, man, how much restriction do we really need? Like, are we good? Like, and so I kind of looked at maybe still coming up to Ohio, like, I don't know, because it's going to get cold soon. So either like before then, like Derek really wants to see snow. So I was like, well, maybe we would try to come up in the winter, but that's just such a sketchy time to like travel, to drive and stuff. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys in the loop if I decide to come up. I have all this flight credit too that I could use. I don't know if we're ever going to get to use that. But okay, so I have the compound effect pulled up over here. So let's go ahead and we'll just pick up where I left off. We didn't get too far into it, so if you didn't get to listen last time, just know that like, we're only like 20 minutes into the book, and really the beginning was like setting the stage, kind of like who he was. And so I can kind of fill you in just in case you didn't catch the recording. But the compound effect is basically a daily checklist, or the things that you do daily that get you to an overall goal, right? Like you can't lose the weight unless you do the workout every single day. And so it's really going to teach you how to focus less on, oh my gosh, I want this huge thing, and it's going to help you focus more on, well, what can I do today to move me closer, right? Like, doesn't mean like today the 30 pounds is going to fall off, or today I'm going to buy that house. But if I have that long-term goal, what do I need to do every single day to get me there? And so that's what I really love about the compound effect. It was one of the first books I ever read when I started coaching, and to me, it's the reason why my coaching launched as much as it did in the beginning, is because I really immediately applied the compound effect to my life and to my business. And I instantly started like doing power hours, and he'll kind of talk about that here in the book as well. And I just instantly started to focus on every little task that I could do every single day to just get me that much closer, that much further ahead. And I can't remember if he already talked about it or if he talks about it soon, but he talks about like every little step gets you that much further ahead than like the person next to you working. It's like, and not that you're like in competition with other Beachbody coaches, but in my mind, I'm a pretty competitive person. And I naturally just thought, oh, if I could talk to one more person or sign up one more person, that was going to get me just that much closer to having a team or to having what I wanted, and, to having financial freedom. I just was like, one more challenge pack, one more. And every time I just kind of pushed myself to do one more, I really think that's the reflection in my business now. I really do. And that's my mentality on things too. Instead of being like, oh, that's good enough, I think, oh, what about just one more? Okay. And so really flipping that mentality of like, that's good enough compared to, oh, what if I just put in one more? And I think that's where the compound effect really comes into play, because you realize that just one more isn't really that big of a deal. right? It's really not that big of a deal. But if you were to do just one more over the course of a month, well, that's 30 more people that you talk to. And then over the course of a year, that's a 300 people that you talk to, more than you would have if you would have just done one more. And so it's really kind of cool when you look at it like that, because, you know, what's messaging one more person a day? You know, like in the grand scheme of your whole day, it's like a fraction of time. But it can really compound over time as well, which is like the great part of it, because it doesn't necessarily make you feel like, oh, I have to do, oh my gosh, I have to do all of this stuff, oh, so much more, like how can I just imagine doing more. But in reality, it's not necessarily like you need to be doing gobs more, but maybe just a little bit more, and a little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here. And then you're going to find out that it's just going to get you that motivation and that momentum going. So that's kind of where the compound effect comes from. That's why I love the compound effect so much, because it truly changed my mindset about business. Because I know when I first started and I was like looking at all these top coaches, I was like, how do you even get there? Like, it just didn't even make sense in my brain how you got there. And it's the compound effect, right? Like, they signed up one coach, they signed up another coach, and then they signed up a coach who signed up a coach, and then eventually they got momentum. And then eventually it just started to carry, and maybe they signed up one more person and two more people and three more people. And then eventually they have a team that they did. You know, it's not like they just woke up one day and signed up 500 coaches. Probably didn't happen, right? It probably started out with, oh, I signed up my mom, and then my sister, and then my mom and my sister signed up so-and-so, and then I signed up so-and-so. And then it compounds into that grand kind of experience at the end. But like, it starts off so small. And I think that's where people discredit beginning something. So, and they just don't even want to try, or they don't even want to start because of the thought of how big it needs to be. But like, you don't need to focus on all that. Like, you really don't. You don't need to focus on being like 10-star diamond, like when you're still trying to get to emerald. You know, just know that like, if you get to emerald, you can get to that next goal. You gotta get to emerald first, right? Or like little goals like that. And so set little goals for yourself that are achievable, and that you can be like, okay, well, if I have to get to emerald, that means I need 2 coaches. And ideally, they say for every 100 people, one of them is going to say yes. Okay, so if you need 2 people to say yes, you need to be talking to 200 people, right? Put it into some math, break it down. Like, you know, maybe you may have to talk to a little bit more, and you may have to talk to a little bit less, but ideally, that's what you could break it down. So if you said, okay, I wanted to hit emerald this month, and I need 2 people, and I need to talk to 200 people, break that down by 30 days. How many people do you need to be messaging every day? You know, and that way you can really get tangible things like, oh, okay, I need to talk to 5 to 10 people a day. 5 people isn't so bad, you know. So you guys can start doing stuff like that where you reverse engineer it. And that all comes from the compound effect and stuff that you're going to start learning to really break it down into tangible daily goals. Like, things I can do every single day. They're going to move me closer to my goal and eventually compound as well. Okay, so I'm going to let him talk though, because I have listened to this audiobook so many times, I could probably say it for him. So I'm going to stop though, because I do like the way he delivers his own message. So let me screen share here. By the way, you guys, I'm already working on October's calendar. Whoop, whoop. Moving on. Okay, so compound effect. Here we go. It should pick up where we left off.
Is the principle of reaping.
Okay, so go ahead, turn your headphones on, mics on. It's about 8:15, so we'll probably listen to 20 to 30 minutes, kind of depending on where the chapter ends or where I feel like we could get a good stopping point and talk some. So just feel free to kind of do whatever you want. We'll just listen.
Huge rewards from a series of small, smart. you're using this strategy for improving your health, relationships, finances, or anything else for that matter, the changes are so subtle, they're almost imperceptible. These small changes offer little or no immediate result. No big win, no obvious "I told you so" payoff. So why bother? Most people get tripped up by the simplicity of the compound effect. For instance, they quit after the 8th day of running because they're still overweight. Or they stop practicing the piano after 6 months because they haven't mastered anything other than chopsticks. Or they stop making contributions to their IRA only after a few years because they could use the cash, and it doesn't seem to be adding up to much anyway. What they don't realize is that these small, seemingly insignificant steps, completed consistently over time, will create a radical difference. Let me give you a few detailed examples. Before the examples, remember this formula. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equal radical difference. The magic penny. If you were given a choice between taking $3 million in cash this very instant and a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days, which would you choose? Now, if you've heard this before, you know the penny gambit is the choice you should make. You know it's the course that will lead to greater wealth. Yet, why is it so hard to believe that choosing the penny will result in more money in the end? Because it takes so much longer to see the payoff. Let's take a closer look. Let's say you take the cold hard cash and your friend goes for the penny. On day 5, your friend has just 16 cents. You, however, have 3 million. On day 10, it's $5.12 versus your big bucks. How do you think your friend is feeling about her decision? You're spending your millions, enjoying the heck out of it, and loving your choice. After 20 days with only 11 days left, Penny Lane has only $5,243. How is she feeling about herself at this point? For all her sacrifice and positive behavior, she barely has more than $5,000. You, however, have $3 million. Then the invisible magic of the compound effect starts to become visible. Now understand, it's the same small mathematical growth improvement each day that makes the compounded penny worth $10,737,418.24 on day 31. More than 3 times your $3 million. In this example, we see why consistency over time is more important. On day 29, you've got $3 million. Penny Lane has around $2.7 million. It isn't until day 30 that she pulls ahead with $5.3 million. And it isn't until the very last day of this month-long ultra-marathon that your friend blows you out of the water and she ends up with the $10 million to your $3 million. Very few things are as impressive as the magic of compounding pennies. Amazingly, this force is equally powerful in every area of your life. Here's another example. 3 friends. Let's take 3 buddies who all grew up together. They live in the same neighborhood with very similar sensibilities. Each makes around $50,000 a year. They're all married. They have average health and body weight, plus a little bit of that dreaded marriage flab. Friend number 1, let's call him Larry, plods along doing as he's always done. He's happy, or so he thinks, but complains occasionally that nothing ever changes. Friend number 2, we'll call Scott. He starts making some small, seemingly inconsequential, positive changes. He begins reading 10 pages of a good book a day and listening to 30 minutes of something instructional or inspirational just on his commute to work. Scott wants to see changes in his life, but doesn't want to make a big fuss over it. He recently read an article with Dr. Mehmet Oz in Success Magazine and chose one idea from the article to start implementing in his life. He's going to cut out 125 calories from his diet every day. No big deal. We're talking about maybe a cup of cereal less, trading a can of soda for a bottle of seltzer, switching from mayo to mustard on a sandwich. All doable. He also started walking a couple extra thousand steps a day, less than a mile. No grand acts of bravery or effort, stuff anyone could do. But Scott is determined to stick with these choices, knowing that even though they're simple, he could also easily be tempted to abandon them. Friend number 3, we'll call Brad. Brad starts making a few poor choices. He recently bought a new big screen TV so he can watch more of his favorite programs. He's been trying out some of those recipes he's seen on the Food Channel, some of those cheesy casseroles and the desserts that are his favorites. Oh, and he installed a bar in his family room and added just one alcoholic drink per week to his diet. Nothing crazy. Brad just wants to have a little more fun. So, at the end of 5 months, there are no perceivable differences between Larry, Scott, or Brad. Scott continues to read a little bit every night and listens to audios during his commute. Brad is, quote-unquote, enjoying life and doing less. Larry doing as he's always done. Even though each man has his own pattern of behavior, 5 months isn't long enough to see any real decline or improvement in their situation. In fact, if you charted the weight of the three men, you'd see a rounding error of 0. They look exactly equal. At the end of 10 months, and then again 15 months, we can't see any noticeable changes in any of their lives. It's not until we get to the end of the 18th month that the slightest differences are measurable in the appearances of the three friends. Even so, there's nothing of any valued consequence that they would recognize differing the three of them. But about month 25, we start seeing really measurable, visible differences. At month 27, we see an expansive difference. And by month 31, the change is startling. Brad is now fat while Scott is trim. By simply cutting out 125 calories a day, in just 31 months, Scott has lost 33 pounds. In case you're skeptical or curious, here's the math. 31 months equals 940 days. 940 days times 125 calories a day equals 117,500 calories saved. 117,500 calories saved times 1 pound divided by 3,500 calories equals 33.5 pounds lost. Now, on the other side of the equation, Brad ate only 125 calories more. Remember, as small as a bowl of cereal a day in the same time frame, and gained 33.5 pounds. Now he weighs 67 pounds more than Scott, but the differences are more significant than weight. Scott invested almost 1,000 hours in reading good books and listening to self-improvement audios. By putting his newly gained knowledge into practice, he's earned a promotion and a raise. Best of all, his marriage is thriving. Brad? He's unhappy at work, and his marriage is on the rocks. And Larry? Larry is pretty much exactly where he was 2.5 years ago, except now he's a little bit more bitter about it. By the way, let me jump off and talk a little bit more about Larry here. Larry represents the vast majority of people. They aren't climbing new heights and accomplishing great feats, and they aren't in a death spiral downward either. They are in what Tony Robbins called in our January 2009 interview in no man's land. He said, this is a place where you're not really happy, but you're not unhappy enough to do anything about it. That's a dangerous place. It's a place where people numb themselves to their dreams. It's where they dismiss hope and accept what's in front of them instead of driving towards what they really want in life. Don't ever be a Larry. Don't get stuck in the no man's land of complacency and status quo. There's no standing still. You are either green and growing or ripening and rotting. There really is no in between. Okay, back to the book. The phenomenal power of the compound effect is simple. The difference between people who employ the compound effect for their benefit compared to their peers who allow the same effect to work against them is almost inconceivable. It looks miraculous, like magic or quantum leaps. After 31 months or 31 years, the person who uses the positive nature of the compound effect appears to be an overnight success. In reality, his or her profound success was a result of small, smart choices completed consistently over time. Get it? The ripple effect. The results in the previous example seem dramatic, I know, but it goes even deeper than that. The reality is that even one small change can have a significant impact that causes an unexpected and unintended ripple effect. Let's put one of Brad's bad habits under the microscope, eating rich food more frequently, to better understand how the compound effect can also work in a negative way and can create a ripple effect that impacts your entire life. Brad makes some muffins from a recipe he learned on the Food Channel. He's proud of it, and his family loves it, and so it seems to add value all around. He starts making them and other sweets frequently. He loves his own cooking and eats a little bit more than his share, but not so much that anyone notices. However, the extra food makes Brad sluggish at night. He wakes up a little groggy, which makes him cranky. The crankiness and sleep deprivation begin to impact his work performance. He's less productive and as a result, gets discouraging feedback from his boss. By the end of the day, he feels dissatisfied with his job and his energy level is way down. The commute home seems longer and more stressful than ever. All of this makes him reach for even more comfort food. Stress has a way of doing that. The overall lack of energy makes Brad less likely to take walks with his wife like he used to. He just doesn't feel like it. She misses their time together and takes his withdrawal personally. With fewer shared activities with his wife and an absence of fresh air and exercise, Brad's not getting the endorphin release that would make him feel upbeat and enthusiastic. Because he's not as happy, he starts finding fault with himself and others and stops complimenting his wife. And his own body starts to feel flabby, and he feels less self-confident, less attractive, and becomes less romantic. Brad doesn't realize how his lack of energy and affection towards his wife affects her. He just knows that he feels funky. He starts losing himself in late-night TV because it's easy and distracting. Feeling the distance, Brad's wife starts to complain, then becomes needy. When that doesn't work, she emotionally withdraws to protect herself. She's lonely. She pours her energy into her work and spends more time with her girlfriends to fulfill her need for companionship. Men start flirting with her, which makes her feel desirable again. Now, she would never cheat on Brad, but he has a feeling that something's wrong. Instead of seeing that his poor choices and behaviors are at the root of the problem, he finds fault with his wife. Believing that the other person is wrong rather than looking inside and doing the work necessary to clean up your mess is basic psychology 101 stuff. In Brad's case, he doesn't know to look inside. They don't offer self-improvement or relationship advice on Top Chef or his other favorite crime shows. Now, if he had read the personal development books his buddy Scott has read, maybe he would have learned about ways to change negative habits and start making vegetable juices instead of desserts, at least some of the time. Unfortunately for Brad, the small choices he made on a daily basis created that ripple effect that wreaked havoc on every area of his life. Now, of course, all that calorie counting and intellectual stimulation has had the opposite effect with Scott, who's now reaping the bounty of positive results. It's that simple. With enough time and consistency, the outcomes become visible. Better yet, they're totally predictable. The compound effect is predictable and measurable, and that's great news. Isn't it comforting to know that you only need to take a series of tiny steps consistently over time to radically improve your life? Doesn't that sound easier than mustering up some grand show of bravery and heroic strength only to wear yourself out and have to drum up all that energy again at a later date for another try, which will most likely be unsuccessful as well? I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But that's what people do. We've been conditioned by society to believe in the effectiveness of great displays of massive effort. Heck, it's downright all-American. Success? Old school. The most challenging aspect of the compound effect is that we have to keep working away at it for a while, consistently and efficiently, before we begin to see the payoff. Our grandparents knew this, though. They didn't spend their evenings glued to the TV watching infomercials about how to have thin thighs in 30 days or a real estate kingdom in 6 months. I bet your grandparents worked 6 days a week, from sun up to sundown, using the skills they learned in their youth and repeating them throughout their entire life. They knew the secret was hard work, discipline, and good habits. It's always interesting to me that wealth tends to skip a generation. Overwhelming abundance often leads to a lackadaisical mentality, which brings about a sedentary lifestyle. Children of wealth are especially susceptible. They weren't the ones who developed the discipline and character to create the wealth in the first place. So it makes sense that they might not have the same sense of value for wealth or understand what's necessary to keep it. We frequently see this entitlement mentality in children of royalty, movie stars, and corporate executives, and to a lesser degree, in children and adults everywhere. As a nation, our entire populace seems to have lost appreciation for the value of a strong work ethic. We've had 2, if not 3 generations of Americans who have known great prosperity, wealth, and ease. Our expectations of what it really takes to create lasting success, like grit, hard work, and fortitude, they just aren't alluring and thus have been mostly forgotten. We've lost respect for the strife and struggle of our forefathers, the massive effort they put forth, instilled discipline, chiseled their character, and stroked the spirit to brave new frontiers. The truth is, complacency has impacted all great empires, including but not limited to the Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and English. Why? Because nothing fails like success. Once dominant empires have failed every time. For this reason, people get to a certain level of success and get too comfortable. Having experienced extended periods of prosperity, health, and wealth, we become complacent. We stop doing what we did to get us there. We become like the frog in the boiling water that doesn't jump to his freedom because the warming is so incremental and insidious that he doesn't notice that he's getting cooked. If we want to succeed, we need to recover our grandparents' work ethic. It's time to restore our character, if not for the sake of saving America, at least for your own greater success and achievement. Don't buy into the genie in a lamp idea. You can sit on your couch, waiting to attract checks into your mailbox, rub crystals together, walk on fire, channel that 2,000-year-old guru, or chant affirmations if you want to, but much of that is hocus-pocus commercialism, manipulating you by appealing to your weaknesses. Real and lasting success requires work, and lots of it. I have a quick, real-time story to illustrate this nothing fails like success concept. A great new restaurant opened up close to my home on the beach in San Diego. In the beginning, the place was always immaculate. The hostess had a big, welcoming smile for everyone. The service was impeccable. The manager always came over to assure it. And the food was sensational. Soon, people lined up to eat there and would often wait more than an hour to be seated. Then, unfortunately, the restaurant staff began to take its success for granted. The hostess became snooty, the service staff disheveled and curt, and the food hit or miss. The place was out of business within 18 months. They failed because of their success, or rather, because they stopped doing what made them successful to begin with. Their success clouded their perspective, and they slacked off. Microwave mentality. Understanding the compound effect will rid you of the instant results expectation. The belief success should be as fast as your fast food, your 1-hour glasses, your 30-minute photo processing, your overnight mail, your microwave eggs, your instant hot water, and text messaging. Enough, okay? Promise yourself that you're going to let go, once and for all, your lottery winner expectations. Because, let's face it, you only hear the stories about the one winner, not the millions of losers. That person you see jumping up and down in front of the Vegas slot machine or at the horse track race doesn't reveal the hundreds of times that same person lost. If we go back to our mathematical chance of a positive result again, we have a rounding error of 0, as in you have about 0 chance of winning. Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert, author of Stumbling on Happiness, says, if we gave lottery losers each 30 seconds on TV to announce not I won, but I lost, it would take almost 9 years to get through the losers of a single drawing. When you understand how the compound effect works, you won't pine for quick fixes or silver bullets. Don't try to fool yourself into believing that a mega successful athlete didn't live through regular, bone-crushing drills and thousands of hours of practice. He got up early to practice and kept practicing long after others had stopped. He faced the sheer agony and frustration of the failure, loneliness, hard work, and disappointment it took to become number one. By the end of this book, or even before, I want you to know it in your bones that the only path to success is through a continuum of mundane, unsexy, unexciting, and sometimes difficult daily disciplines compounded over time. Know, too, that the results, the life, and the lifestyle of your dreams can be yours when you put the compound effect to work for you. If you use the principles outlined in the compound effect, you will create a fairy tale ending. Okay, have I made my point? Good. Now, before we go into the next chapter, I want to remind you that in the book, I provide you with a summary of action steps, taking the key principles that we've covered in Chapter 1 so you can start integrating them into your life. Remember this, knowledge is not power. It's potential power. It's like energy in a light switch. Until you turn it on, taking action, the power is useless. Knowledge uninvested is wasted. Or as Jim Rohn would say, ideas without action leads to delusion. So don't forget to go back, capture the key points, and start taking action on them today. Now, coming up in the next chapter, we will focus on the one thing that controls your life. Every victory or defeat, triumph or failure has started with this. Everything you have or don't have in your life right now has been because of this. Learn to change this, and you can change your life. Let's discover what this is. Chapter 2, Choices. We all come into this world the same, naked, scared, and ignorant. After that grand entrance, the life we end up with is simply an accumulation of all the choices we make. Our choices can be our best friend or our worst enemy. They can deliver us to our goals or send us orbiting into a galaxy far, far away. Think about it. Everything in your life exists because you first made a choice about something. Choices are at the root of every one of your results. Each choice starts a behavior that over time becomes a habit. Choose poorly, and you just might find yourself back at the drawing board, forced to make new, often harder choices. Don't choose at all, and you've just made the choice to be the passive receiver of whatever comes your way. In essence, you make your choices, and then your choices make you. Every decision, no matter how slight, alters the trajectory of your life. Whether or not you go to college, who you marry, to have that last drink before you drive, to indulge in gossip or stay silent, to make one more prospecting call or call it a day, to say I love you or not. Every choice has an impact on the compound effect of your life. This chapter is about becoming aware of and making choices that support the expansion of your life. Sounds complicated, I know, but you'll be amazed by its simplicity. No longer will 99% of your choices be unconscious. No more will most of your daily routines and traditions come as a reaction to your programming. You'll ask yourself and be able to answer, how many of my behaviors have I not voted on? What am I doing that I didn't consciously choose to do, yet continue to do every day? By employing the same idiot-proof strategies I've used to catapult my own life and career, strengthened by the compound effect, you'll be able to loosen up the mysterious grip of these things that are unwinding your life and pulling you in the wrong direction. You'll be able to hit the pause button before stumbling into idiot territory yourself. You'll experience the ease of making decisions that lead to behaviors and habits that support you every time. Your biggest challenge isn't that you've intentionally been making bad choices. Heck, that would be easy to fix. Your biggest challenge is that you've been sleepwalking through your choices. Half the time, you're not even aware that you're making them. Our choices are often shaped by our culture and upbringing. They can be so entwined in our routine behaviors and habits that they seem beyond our control. For instance, have you ever been going about your business, enjoying your life, when all of a sudden you made a stupid choice or a series of small choices that ultimately sabotaged your hard work and momentum, all for no apparent reason? You didn't intend to sabotage yourself, but by not thinking about your decisions, weighing the risks and potential outcomes, you found yourself facing unintended consequences. Nobody intends to become obese, go through bankruptcy, or get a divorce. But often, if not always, those consequences are a result of a series of small, poor choices. Elephants don't bite. Have you ever been bitten by an elephant? How about a mosquito? See, it's the little things in life that will bite you. Occasionally, we see big mistakes threaten to destroy a career or a reputation in an instant. The famous comedian who rants racial slurs during a stand-up routine. The drunken anti-Semitic antics of a once celebrated humanitarian. The anti-gay rights senator caught soliciting gay sex in a restroom. The admired female tennis player who uncharacteristically threatens an official with a tirade of expletives. Clearly, these types of poor choices have major repercussions. But even if you've pulled a whopper like that in your past, it's not the extraordinary, massive steps backwards or the tragic single moments that we're concerned with here. For most of us, it's the frequent, small, and seemingly inconsequential choices that are of grave concern. I'm talking about the decisions you think don't make any difference at all. It's those little things that inevitably and predictably derail your success. Whether they're boneheaded maneuvers, no biggie behaviors, or are disguised as positive choices, those are especially insidious, these seemingly insignificant decisions can completely throw you off course because you're not mindful of them. You get overwhelmed, space out, and become unaware of the little actions that take you way off course. The compound effect works all right. It always works, remember? But in this case, it works against you because you're unaware of what you're doing. You're sleepwalking. For instance, you inhale a soda and a bag of potato chips, suddenly realize only after you've polished off the last chip that you blew an entire day of healthy eating and you weren't even hungry. You get caught up and lose 2 hours watching mindless TV. Scratch that. Let's give you some credit and make it a educational documentary. Before realizing you spaced out preparing for an important presentation to land a valuable client. You blurt out a knee-jerk lie to a loved one for no good reason, when the truth would have worked just fine. What's going on? You've allowed yourself to make a choice without thinking, and as long as you're making choices unconsciously, you can't consciously choose to change that ineffective behavior and turn it into productive habits. It's time to wake up and make empowering choices.
Okay, I'll pause it right there because I think he's about to go into another storyline. So I want to kind of give us at least like 15, 20 minutes to kind of talk about that a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about what he's kind of going. I'm going to go back. I took some notes while I was listening. So the first thing that we really kind of learned about or talked about was that penny analogy. Which I'm sure you guys have maybe heard that before, you know, in life of just like that kind of compounding that penny over and over and over again about how, you know, that instant gratification that we would have taken would have only gotten us 3 million. But if we actually wait and really give ourselves that time to compound, we actually realize that we're going to get 3 times more than what we would have originally gotten had we been like selfish or greedy, right? Like that's what I think of it as, is like sometimes we get really greedy and we want things right now. So we're willing to settle for less than wait for more, right? And how many times can you probably even think back on like, wow, I settled for getting, okay, this is just like the first thing that pops in my head. Like I'll buy crappy leggings because they're $12 at TJ Maxx rather than waiting until I have the money to buy the $50 leggings from Fabletics. But guess what happens always at the end? Those $12 TJ Maxx leggings I end up not wearing because they don't fit right. Maybe they fall down all the time, or I'm always pulling them or tugging them, or maybe the seams break or they get washed and they get dingy. Like, because I wouldn't wait and I chose to go kind of for that instant gratification rather than waiting and maybe putting $12 back, right? Instead of spending the $12 on something like, oh, I'll just settle for this. What if I waited, put $12 back each week, and then at the end of the month, I got the nicer leggings that I know that I really want, right? And so I think that's like a really easy way to kind of look at it as like, how can I apply these pennies to my life? Is how many times do we decide, oh, I'll just get this now for right now, instead of maybe suffering just a little bit longer, you know, and getting what you know you really want. Right? How many times do we look on Facebook Marketplace and because we're like, oh, I'll just get something cheap. I'll just get a cheap table for right now. Like we do that, you know, like I'd be like, oh, I'll just get a cheap table right now. It's like $50, whatever. But then it falls apart or like it's already got bangs on it. And it's like, man, if I would have maybe just waited to actually get what I wanted, you know, save the money and really, or take the time to really look on the marketplace for a good deal or a good, you know, purchase. I never am as satisfied. You know, I'm like, that'll do. It'll be okay. And like, I think that's how we run life a lot of times is, that'll do. Instead of being patient and waiting for what we know is possible and what we deserve. Right? Like you guys deserve that better product or that better, that more income, right? If you can just look at it as like the pennies, like, yeah, obviously 3 million is awesome, but 10 million would be better. I mean, let's be honest, if we're throwing millions out, right? I will take 10, I will wait 30 days and take 10 million over the instant gratification of having 3. Because imagine the planning I could do in that 30 days for what I'm going to do with that 10 million compared to me having that instant 3 million. Do you know how much stupid stuff I would probably buy? Because it was like instantly in my hands. But if I had to sit and plan for the next 30 days of what I was going to do with 10 million, I bet I would make so much smarter choices because I had to wait and earn it. And I think that like we can really, really, really apply that to life in general. You guys know when something comes super easy or something's given to you or something is just granted to you, you take it for advantage. You don't treat it like you would have if, you know, like when you saved and saved and saved, like this computer, guys, I've been wanting this computer for 2 years and I finally freaking got it. And it is like my baby. Right now, if I would just like would have like just go buy a computer, like no big deal. Like I researched computers, I talked to my brother, I like saved the money, I made sure that it was the right time to purchase. Like I was watching deals, and like it took time for me to actually get this. And you know what? I love it so much because of the money I saved, because of the time it took for me to get it, because of the research I did, the things I had to learn to understand what the heck I was even looking for. You guys ever tried to computer shop? Because it's like the most, I'm like, what is all of these letters and numbers? And I'm like, I don't know. But I had to like pay attention. I had to do the research. I had to do the time. And I think that you earn it more, right? And so just take that penny analogy and just like, whenever you're thinking, I just want this to be done, or I just want that, or be like, I'm going to work for that. How can I choose to work for that? Rather than saying, oh, I just wish I had that right now. What if we choose right off the bat, I'm going to earn that, right? Like, I'm going to earn that respect. I'm going to earn that change. Right? Like to me, like even just like when people go and get surgery to like lose weight, I'm just like, man, you didn't earn it. Like you didn't earn that, you know? Like, and then what happens typically is you will see people that they will gain it all back, or they will fluctuate, or their brain didn't change, their mentality didn't change. You know, they still think of themselves in a certain way, or they still think a certain way. And it just, they didn't, to me, I'm like, you didn't earn it. You didn't put in all the hard work. Not right now, Hub. Not right now. You need to have breakfast. Have some string cheese and a banana, please. And then maybe if you're good, I will let you have some of that. Cool?
Yeah, like a robot, I apple and house.
Okay. Eat an apple, and then I'll get you a bowl afterwards.
I'll leave that right.
Okay. I don't even know why I buy Smart Food popcorn, because it's like always such a hassle every day. I get to me, I'm like, just eat the bag, like, get it out of the way. But okay. So I love that analogy. And I think that just sometimes we have to catch ourselves when we say, oh, I just want I just want to have the abs right now. Oh, I just want, my business to be booming. I just want da 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 da. And I even quoted it yesterday, and like I actually even said it over the weekend. And I was like, man, like, why do we think we deserve more when we're not even appreciating what is right in front of us? And I think that can come down to that penny analogy of we always want things right now, and we're not willing to do the hard work it takes to have that and to keep it. That's the tricky part, because if it was just handed to you, I doubt you would actually value it. Right? Like, I feel like, like if you've earned working that weight off, or you've earned that, like, man, you had a baby and you lost the weight and you got the abs back, like, you value them, like, you love them, like, you're like, I am showing them off like crazy, like, I worked so hard to get these. Yeah, go ahead.
Remember, you put all the apples in water and you.
Oh, bobbing for apples. Yeah. We'll have to do that. You gotta do that. So that's kind of like something you do on like Halloween. So we'll have to save. We'll have to wait till Halloween to do that. That's like a fall kind of thing.
See, we'll do this today and do it today.
We'll do it today.
I'm just kidding.
I'll put your apple in a bowl of water and you can bob it. He's got a loose tooth out. Hopefully, be careful when you're eating that. He's got a loose tooth again. I'm like, isn't that crazy? They just like loose teeth. Like, all right, hey, let me finish and then we'll talk. Okay, go eat your apple. Okay, so then the next thing I wrote down was that like no man's land, just out there frolicking is what I always think. Because like he said, you're not necessarily working towards anything better. Not necessarily like going down that spiral, right? But you're just existing. And in my mind, I never just want to exist. I always want to be working towards a goal or pushing towards something or looking forward towards something, right? Like that's why I waited even so long to get rid of or to cancel the retreat, is because it was like the only thing I felt like for the year I had to look forward to, and I was just like, man, like I just don't want to get rid of it because it's like my one last like like idea of getting together with the girls, and I just didn't want to get rid of it because I was like it was something I had to look forward to. And so, and I'm sure that you guys all have something like maybe you really look forward to a vacation or a trip or like, so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to look forward to, in March we're going on the Success Club trip, hopefully to Mexico. So I'll kind of have that to look forward to and to work towards as well, because the more Success Club points I get, the more trip dollars I get, the less I have to like pay for or spend myself. So it's like I have that goal in mind and something to work towards. So I'm not out here just in no man's land floating and frolicking. I have goals and things that I want to achieve. Okay, so just remember that when you're like, what am I working towards right now? Sometimes you just got to check in and ask yourself, like, am I working towards something, or am I looking forward to something, or do I have something in the future that's pulling me through the hard days, right? Because there's going to be times where you're like, I don't want to work out. I don't want to do this. But if you have a goal set in the future and something you're working towards, that's when that can kind of help pull you through those hard days. Okay. And then I have, I don't remember what he said, but like you're either green and growing or ripe and something. I didn't get that second word. I put ripe and dying. I don't think that's what he said though.
Rotting.
Rotting, that's what it is. Ripe and rotting. I put dying. I was like, that's probably what he meant. No, Derek, I cannot. You need to wait. You need to wait. No, put that down. Swear to God, don't pick up an A. Go now. You're not gonna do that. Sorry, guys. Mom had to get real serious there for a second. I was like, instant, no, you're not cutting your own apple with a knife.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Did I scare you? No.
Yes, you did scare me. Okay, so I love that kind of mentality of like you're either green and growing and flourishing and providing fruit and things like that, or you're ripe and you're dying and you're rotting and you're going down the drain. And so I always think we should always be green and growing if we have the choice, which you do. That's the cool thing, you guys, is it's not like, oh, I'm ripe and rotting and that's just where I'm going to sit and stay. No, at any moment you get to choose to be different. And that's the cool thing, is at any moment, if you're like, man, I am ripe and rotting, you can go, boom, not happening anymore. And you can start making choices in the opposite direction. Okay. I love that ripple effect thought of like, you guys, the compound effect is working regardless of whether you're focused on it or not. Like, it's happening in your life. Now, whether the ripple effect and the compound effect is working in a negative way or a positive way, that's up to you to kind of decide. And that's up to you to really evaluate, right? Like, am I going through all these motions, but really they're all lining me up to a negative life? And you're going to have to start changing it, right? If you want something different, you're going to have to be willing to do something different. Think of it like that. So if you feel like, man, I'm just going through the motions and I'm just rotting, or I'm not necessarily making any positive decisions, or I just keep getting negative outcomes, you're going to have to do something different. You are going to have to do something different. Not your husband, not your mom, not your kids, you. And only you. That's the only way. It's the only way your husband is ever going to act different is if you act different. Right? And also be willing for them to be like, why is she acting so different? They're not going to get it at first. Okay? They're going to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She usually always acts like this, and she's super calm. This makes me nervous. What is she doing over there? But it's because you're trying to act different. You're trying to be different. You're trying to do things different. And that's going to take time for other people to understand. That's going to take you to prove, right? This is the new me, right? Not just this one time, right? This one time I tried to act different and you didn't accept it. And so now I'm just gonna be mad because I was trying. No, you're going to be willing to try and try and try and try and try and be like, no, this is really the new me. This is really what I got going on, you know, and you're going to have to prove it over and over and over again until they go, wow, she really did make some changes. Wow, she's serious. It wasn't just a week. Wow, it's been months that she's really been like grinding on this. It's going to take time. We're not a microwave mentality. Get out, go to crock pots. You are a crock pot and you are sitting overnight for 8 hours. Like, think of, you are a crock pot, not a microwave. And imagine the food that comes out of the microwave compared to the crock pot. Let's just like evaluate that for a second, right? How does your food taste when it comes out of a microwave? And how does your food taste when it comes out of a crock pot? Night and day. Totally different, right? And so we have to think of the long haul. And if you're in the long haul, imagine everybody else around you even longer. It's going to take them longer to understand the changes you're making. Twice as long, 3 times as long. And you have to be willing to be there. Ooh, Kristen, that looks freaking delicious, whatever you got going on over there.
Vegetable broth. As you're talking about that, it needs to get jarred.
See, but you don't forget make vegetable broth in 30 minutes or 3 minutes. It's a slow simmer on the stove or, you know, on the heater. Like, it takes time for that to infuse and to make all of the changes, but it's worth it. That's the thing, you guys. Absolutely worth it. And you earned it. And you will enjoy it 3 times as much. Right? I'm like, even just like literally thinking of this chicken broth. Like, it's going to be so good. even though you have to smell it all day and you can't try it, you can't touch it, you can't mess with it, and you got to smell it, and you're just like, oh, I just want to eat it, I just want to use it now, but it's not done. It's worth the wait. That's what Mike always says when I take like a really long time cooking something. I'll be like, I'm so sorry, this is taking forever for me. He's like, it's always worth the wait. He's like, your cooking is always worth the wait. He's like, because I know the longer it takes, probably the better it's going to taste. Right? But when I like whip up food and I'm like, I don't know, this is what I had. Like, it's like 30 minutes. Like, it's okay, you know? But it's not like when I take my real time to do what I know I'm capable of. Okay. So I love that kind of microwave mentality versus crock pots. Like, he didn't say crock pots, but that's what I'm going to think in my head, is that we are slow cooking, guys. Slow cooking. And the moment you get antsy to hurry and to rush, you're ruining your ripple effect. Okay? Be in it for the long haul. Like, for life. I like to look at it like that. It's like, I'm not just coaching to be like, oh, well, in 5 years, you know, I'm going to do something else. Like, I just look at it as like, this is what I'm going to be doing forever. Regardless of whether it is or not. I mean, like, who knows what could happen in the future. But in my mind, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. And this is what I'm grinding towards. Okay? So, what else did I write? Oh, I love knowledge is not power, you guys. If knowledge was power, everybody with Google would be a genius. And they're not. Okay? Like, hands down. Like, unless you're applying that knowledge to something, it's useless. So you have to be applied knowledge and power with massive action. Okay? Knowledge is only power if you're taking action on that knowledge, right? So you may know you need to eat a salad, but if you're choosing chocolate chip cookies every time, your actions aren't aligning with your knowledge. Okay? So you can know everything in the world, but if you're not acting based off of what you know, it's pointless. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge and habits and actions, massive actions, not just one, well, I put my water over here instead of over here. You know, like, that's like tiny little action. I need massive actions, okay? Bigger actions, and over and over and over and over again, okay? Okay. So I love that little knowledge is not power, because I think a lot of us, like the same thing, you guys, like, you could sit here and do personal development all freaking day. But if you're not actually out there doing something different or acting different or trying to apply it or trying to, like, it's pointless. You could sit and watch the workouts, or you can sit up and take massive action and actually do the workouts. It's totally different. Okay. Okay, so then the last thing I wrote down, which I know it's 9:03, so I'll kind of go through this, is just moving into that next chapter, choices, and how choices can affect our lives, good or bad, right? Every choice is either fighting for your goal or against your goal. And that's just how it is. And that's where sometimes you can kind of check in and be like, if I do this, does that align with one of my core values? Right? Maybe your core values are love your family, work hard, you know, like you need to have some core values. And then every choice you make is based off of that core value, or you can check in with and say, okay, so, you know, yesterday, so like we're being by the pool, like, is that what I really wanted? Well, yeah, I want to spend time with my family. I love my family. I want to breathe into my family. Okay, that aligns with my core values. Now go make that decision to go by the pool with your family. Okay, so what are your core values? And then every decision you base off around that is based off of your core values. Okay, but if you don't know who you are and what you stand for, you're just out there in no man's land. Okay, and no man's land, we know, gets you nowhere. But if you have these very strong goals, very strong values, very strong core of who you are and why and what you stand for, all your decisions will be based off of that. And that's how you create the positive ripple effect. But if you're just out there in no man's land, just hanging out, doing whatever, going where life goes, that's the compound effect going to be probably working against you in a negative aspect. Now, you might have some positives in your life, some good moments here and there, but not like it will be if you were on the other side. Okay? So, and then lastly, I wrote, you guys, it's not the elephant that's going to bite you. It's that little mosquito. It's that little tiny mosquito. And then a little mosquito and a little mosquito and a little mosquito, and they itch and they annoy. And then eventually all of a sudden you got Zika virus or something, and now everything has gone to shit. Like, you have to look at it like that. It's not going to be the big obvious thing that's bothering you. No, it's the bowl of ice cream that you choose every single night, right? That's why you're not losing the weight. You know, it's the little things that you think don't matter that do matter. I'm not saying you can't have ice cream. I have ice cream. But I'm just saying, if you're trying to actively lose weight, then you can't really be making decisions like that, right? Or if you're actively trying to save money, but yet you go to Starbucks every day and spend $5 to $10, it's because you're like, oh, it's just $5. Well, $5 over 5 days a week. Well, now you've spent $30 or something like that, give or take, probably more, because you probably bought a muffin and a bagel every once in a while, but it's the little thing that you think doesn't matter that matters the most. And that's what I really want to start shifting our focus to. And that's why the compound effect is so important, because it makes you really start to look at every single little thing that you do as either feeding or fighting your goals. Okay? And yes, they all matter. Because if you were making 5 little decisions throughout the day that are fighting against your goal, you're going to eventually get to the end of the month and be like, why am I not signing somebody up? Well, it's because you had 5 little negative choices every single day, compounded by 30. You're making 1,500 negative decisions over a month, and so you got to start looking at it like that. And it kind of gets in your head a little bit. It's kind of like the 5-second rule. Once it gets in your head and you're sitting there and you know that you should be getting up, you've already counted to 5, and you like have that guilt that starts to set in. You're like, oh, I gotta get up. I've already counted to 5, or like I've already thought about it. Once the compound effect gets in your head, I'm sorry guys, it's hard to get it out. It is hard to sit and do something that isn't feeding your goals. Even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's a 30-minute episode, right? Maybe, I could have been watching a 30-minute episode, or I could have done a 20-minute T20 workout. And when you realize that those little decisions are either fighting or feeding your goals, and it'll get in your head and you're going to be like, dang it. But I'm just trying to get us to make decisions based off of our goals so we can start moving forward rather than being out in no man's land. Like, we have to be conscious in our lives and aware of every decision that we're making or not making. Okay, so that's what I'm going to kind of leave it for today, is really just we're going to move into choices next week. Every Monday, we're going to go through the compound effect. So if you ever miss one, just know that I'm going to really, really try to make sure I record them so we can have it like all in order, and so everybody can kind of keep on track. I love the compound effect. I'm so excited for you guys to kind of really start working into it and kind of getting it into your brains, because I think it's a game changer. I really do. When I listened to the compound effect and then I listened to the 10X rule, it was like changed everything. It was like, oh, so if I make all these little decisions, but then I time those by 10, and like massive action can start happening like that in your life. Okay, so we'll work into it, but just know that we're getting started on the compound effect, and I can see wheels already turning, and that makes me very happy. All right, ladies. Thank you guys for coming today. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a fabulous Labor Day. Tennille, drive safe. Everybody else, have a great day. Message me if you need anything. I think all of you guys are coaches. So, the Emerald training starts today. So make sure you're popping over there and you're kind of feeding into that. Even if you're already Emerald or above, walk your people through it, or just, it's still good knowledge to know. So you can just kind of start being more educated about maybe the status you are at, your girls at.
Done.
Yeah. Give me a second. Okay. Mom, did you have something to say? I saw you take your mute off. Oh, I didn't mean to ask you to mute. I tried to unmute you. Okay, maybe not. All right. She'll message me if she does.
I was just going to say goodbye.
Oh. All right. Love you guys. Love you,
I
Mom.
have to say love you.
Love you. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Bye.